On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1983. We're going to be taking a look at Donna Summer, and she's going to be performing Last Dance. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So let's get Donna up on screen and see how she gets on.
Last chance for love. Yes, it's my last chance. Romance tonight. I need you by me, beside me, to guide me, to hold me, scold me, 'cause when I'm bad, I'm so bad. Well, come on and dance. So let's dance, let's dance, let's dance, let's dance, let's dance, let's dance, let's dance tonight. It's my last chance for love. Yes, it's my last chance, romance tonight. Oh, need you around me, beside me, to guide me, to hold me, hold me, 'cause when I'm bad, I'm so bad. Let's dance, let's dance, let's dance, let's dance, let's dance, let's dance, I can be sure that you're the one for me. Well, all that I am is that you dance with me, dance with me, dance with me,
I'm just going to jump in here. As always, the link to this video is going to be in the description below, so you guys can click on that to see it the whole way through without me interrupting it. But this live performance, we get a little bit of feedback on the mic at the beginning, which I love hearing because you know it's totally live. But Donna Summer was one of those vocalists who could just produce a studio quality vocal time after time. And with this performance, I know that she was referred to as the Queen of Disco, but she was just the queen of everything. With that vocal, she could sing any genre. It's not a case of having a great voice just for disco. She just has a great voice, full stop. So straight off the bat, as soon as the piano starts up, Donna comes in with an ooh vowel, and she's just balancing that airflow perfectly. It's such a clean sound that she gets in her head voice with those oohs, and spot on pitch-wise. You know instantly that this woman can sing and that you are in for a treat. Breath control is something that she just has down, and all the top singers have that. where they can just float up in their range, and it never seems like they're ever straining for notes or pushing their vocal too hard. They just float up to those high notes of the song. We are going to be having a bit of an analysis of the notes that are being sung here and the pitch that is covered range-wise, but Donna just makes it look so easy. Just a quick word on this song as a composition. It's written by Paul Jabara, and it was featured on the soundtrack for the Thank God It's Friday movie. And this performance obviously is a lot longer than the original record, but the arrangement that we've got here just takes you on such an interesting journey, because we start out with the understated vocal from Donna, but also just the keys in the background. But then we have the dramatic increase in tempo, which takes it from the ballad territory into the dance territory, because now we're upbeat, we've got some energy in there, and we get straight into a chorus. We then get into another verse and then a pre-chorus, but now we're at that higher tempo. We also follow into a chorus, then we get into the instrumental breakdown. And this is more of a section where you'll focus in on that guitar riff that's being played. We then get into a bridge, or a middle eight as it's also known. And this is going to be something that sounds totally different than the rest of the song. So on that journey, we're always visiting somewhere new, because we have got a lot of chord changes in the standard progression here. Hearing this the first time through, you're not going to be used to where the song's going, or you're not really going to know what's coming up next. So when that bridge, that middle eight, comes in, it means that you are seeing something for the first time and you're not really used to the journey yet. So it is so interesting. After that, we then have a total breakdown where Donna will get into a little bit of acting, a little bit of musical theatre. We haven't got up to that point yet, considering where we've watched the video to so far, but look out for that when we resume, because after that, we'll get back into a chorus. We're then getting into the pre-chorus, and by this time, we're getting towards the end of the performance, and then we get into the chorus to finish with. So, the light and shade we have in this performance the whole way through, you're just always seeing new sights. It is so interesting the whole time, considering that it's about a 6-minute performance. Also, look out for the difference between Donna's speaking voice and her singing voice. When we get into this breakdown where there's more acting going on, more musical theatre, listen out for the difference in her voice, the way that her singing voice is so much more supported. She's got that diaphragmatic breath that she's taken. She's leaning on her diaphragm when she sings, but then when she's talking, there isn't that support in the sound. And you can definitely hear a difference between the two voices being used, between talking and singing in that section. But getting into the pitches being covered here by Donna, I always say that the great singers can cover an octave, sometimes more, with their voice from verse to chorus, and we do have that here with Donna. So starting out, we're in and around A sharp 3 vocally. That is the pitch being covered within the first verse, but then as we progress, we're going to be getting up to C4 and a C sharp 4, also an F4 and a G4. So we're already getting close to an octave. But then at about 2 minutes and 47 in this performance, that is where we get an A sharp 4. So it means that Donna has covered that whole octave, because we started on the A sharp 3. So it's exactly an octave above that. She does get up to a C5 in this performance as well. And you'll notice this common trend with having notes in the verse and the pre-chorus that are lower than the chorus, because it always tends to be the journey that you go on vocally. The high note can always be found in the chorus. But let's get back into the performance and we'll watch it until the end.
Ain't I even worth a dime a dance? How about just half the chance tonight? Please, mister, 'cause it's my last chance. Romance, that's right. When I'm
And there we have it. It is just such a faultless vocal performance. Also, listen out to the backing vocals going on, because during that breakdown, you can just hear one of the backing vocalists that is actually really similar to not only Donna's tone, but the expression in the voice, also covering exactly the same range. I think the backing vocalist actually does touch on a D5, so way up there, and a little bit higher than Donna gets to with her range, but of course the backing vocalists are going to be singing lines above Donna anyway to harmonize with her. Just quickly to highlight the high note of the song for Donna in this performance and the way that she gets there. This is going to be the C5. We're going to have a listen and also listen out to the backing vocalist as well. And there we have it. So that high C, the C5 that we heard from Donna, she just gets up there so effortlessly. She just floats up to that note. So it is that combination of having the expression and emotion paired with the high note of the song. And that is always going to have more impact because of the fact that when you do get emotional, you raise your voice. It's something that we all do, and it's something that when we hear it in music, it has that emotional impact on us. And that's certainly what we get with Donna here, especially when you add in the lyrical content as well. I do want to attempt to get a little bit into Donna's history and career in this video. Obviously, because it's Donna, it could go on all night, but I'll try and keep it brief. She started performing when she was only 10 years of age. Her first performance was actually at church, and this was because the person who was supposed to be singing didn't show up, and then Donna took over. She also performed in musicals at school, and just before her graduation in 1967, she decided to chase the dream and go to New York. So she joined a blues rock band there, and they did get a little bit of label interest, but the label interest wasn't for the whole band, it was just because they liked Donna. And as she moved on, she then auditioned for the musical Hair, and she managed to get the part of Sheila in that musical. And she traveled to Germany to be in the German production of that musical, and therefore she became fluent in German, also sang in that language, as well as performing in other musicals in Europe at that time. So her first single that was released was called Aquarius, and this was released on Polydor in 1968, and this was from Hair, the musical, the German version of it, and she was also working as a model and a backup singer at this point as well. And in 1974, she signed to Oasis Records, and then that led to her signing with Groovy Records, which allowed her to distribute the demo that she recorded, which would turn into her debut album in 1974 called Lady of the Night. And the interesting thing about that album is that on the cover there was a mistake with her name, because her surname, Summer, was spelt S-O-M-M-E-R, but they spelt it as S-U-M-M-E-R, and she just stuck with that because it seemed to work. And interestingly, on that album there was a huge hit called The Hostage, which was a massive hit in Europe, but it was removed in Germany because I think a political figure, an important one, was taken hostage at that time. So because of the name of the song and the subject matter, it was removed from being played in Germany. In 1975, Donna had an idea for a song that was called Love to Love You, and she showed it to Giorgio Moroder, and he was a producer and a friend at the time, and he said that Donna should record it herself. So they sent the song over to Casablanca Records, and Neil Bogart from that record label listened to it and he really liked it, and he renamed it Love to Love You Baby. Anyway, Donna then signed with Casablanca Records and recorded the song and the album of the same name. The song was a huge hit. It got to number 2 in the US charts, and the album sold over 1 million copies. Interestingly, in Europe, some countries didn't play it because of the moaning and groaning that was involved on the track. But here in the UK, it got to number 5 in our charts, even though it was banned on the BBC. So even with those restrictions, it was still massively popular. Due to the success, the record label pretty much released an album instantly, and that was called A Love Trilogy, and this was in 1976. Another album that year called Four Seasons of Love was released, and both of those albums were massive successes and had very successful singles released from those albums. And in 1977, I Remember Yesterday was released, and that had a song on there called I Feel Love, and that was hugely popular as well, got to number 6 in the USA and number 1 here in the UK. And in 1977, Once Upon a Time was released, and that same year she released Down Deep Inside, which was the theme song to a movie released that year called The Deep. In 1978, she also appeared in the movie Thank God It's Friday, from which this song we've just heard comes from, and Last Dance was a massive hit. It got to number 3 in the USA, and her version of MacArthur Park then turned into her first ever number 1 in the charts, and this topped the charts for 3 weeks. And that same year, she released her album Live and More, and that became a number 1 album in the USA. It went double platinum, and it meant that Donna was not only at number 1 in the singles chart at that time, but also number 1 in the album charts simultaneously. In 1979, she released Bad Girls, and this went triple platinum. It was a monster album. From that album, Hot Stuff, she won a Grammy for that. That was a number 1, as well as Bad Girls, the title track of the album, getting to number 1. Dim All the Lights got to number 2 in the charts. Also, No More Tears, Enough Is Enough was another huge hit. At this point, she just had a succession of hits that all got into the top 5 of the charts. And in 1979, she released her greatest hits. She was being nominated and winning a lot of awards at this point. She had her own special on ABC, and that was called the Donna Summer Special. She did break away from her record label at this point, Casablanca, in 1980, because she wanted to get into other styles of music, whereas they didn't want her to change. But she did move to Geffen at this point and released The Wanderer in 1980. And the title track from that album got to number 3 in the charts. It was hugely successful. Also in 1982, she released Donna Summer, and that was hugely popular again. And in 1983, she released She Works Hard for the Money. Her previous record label, Casablanca, was now owned by Polygram, and they got in touch saying that Donna still owed them an album. So, in order to smooth this over, they offered the release of the title song from that previous album, She Works Hard for the Money, to Polygram. And that turned into a massive hit. It got to number 3 in the US charts, and that was her number 1 in the R&B charts. She also won a Grammy for He's a Rebel, and in the late 80s, I think the record label that she was with, Geffen, were concentrating on younger acts, so she wasn't getting as much on the promotion side of things. But in 1989, she released This Time I Know It's For Real, and that turned into a huge hit. It got to number 7 in the US charts. In 1992, she embarked on a world tour. She also received her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and she had success throughout the 90s in the dance charts, multiple number 1s, too many for me to mention in this video, but that success continued into the 2000s. She had a big hit with The Power of One, that got to number 2 in the US dance charts. Also, she was inducted into the Dance Music Hall of Fame in 2004, and in 2008, she released her album of original material, and that was massively popular. That made it to number 17 in the album charts in the USA, as well as just having multiple number 1s continuing in the dance charts. She scored another number 1 in the dance charts in 2010 with To Paris With Love, and sadly Donna did pass away due to lung cancer in 2012. That was on May the 17th. And following her death, it is just clear how many artists and musicians she inspired throughout her lifetime with her music. Artists like Chaka Khan, Barbra Streisand, Aretha Franklin, Gloria Gaynor, Dolly Parton, Liza Minnelli. The list goes on and on of just top artists that were inspired by Donna Summer. It is great to have a look back at her here in full flow, just effortless vocal, spot on pitch-wise, and Just such an engaging performer as well, the way that she could interact with the crowd, as well as just being top level vocally in just so many different aspects. But thank you guys for suggesting this video for me to take a look at, and keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!